episode 572 of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Going to be talking about tonight's new episodes of WWE NXT and Dark Side of the Ring, featuring Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Right here, right now, 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Hello and welcome, Wrestling Fanatics, to 360 Wrestling Fanatic episode 572. Tonight, going to be talking about episodes of WWE NXT and Dark Side of the Ring. But first, I just want to start off tonight's new episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic by once again apologizing for last night. I got this new fancy schmancy handy dandy microphone, and I wanted to just got it yesterday from Amazon, and I wanted to do a new podcast, see how it would work, see if kind of a test, which I actually should have done a quick test, not an actual podcast, but just to make sure how it would work first before I actually tried to do an episode of the podcast. And then last night, when I actually did try to do the podcast, didn't record. And also, for some reason with YouTube, I tried to do a live stream as well on there, but for some reason, after I was finished normally the live stream stays up there, but for some reason, and I know it was working at the time because I even checked on my phone real quick to make sure, just to kind of test it out to see, and it was working at the time, but for some reason as soon as I finished it, I don't know why, but just disappeared. So not sure how many people actually saw or heard that episode last night of 360 Wrestling Fanatic, talking about last night's Raw, which I did talk about last night's Raw on Good Morning Wrestling Fans this morning. Sorry, just kind of lost my train of thought there for some reason. So hopefully the microphone is working now, because I did test it earlier today a few times, just to make sure that everything was working. Like they say, you gotta dot the I's and cross the T's, just to make sure everything's A-OK, okie dokie, all that good stuff. And let's start off tonight, WWE NXT from Full Sail. Our commentators for tonight, Vic Joseph and Booker T. And we have Dijak defeating Shawn Spears, Thea Hale defeating Jasmine Nix, Lola Vice had an open challenge, and it was accepted by none other than the Queen of Hearts herself, Natalya. And Natalya getting the win here, defeating Lola Vice, Ila Dragunov, defeating Channing Lorenzo, Josh Briggs defeated Duke Hudson, Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin defeated the Alpha Academy, Otis and Akira Tozawa, along with Maxine Dupree in their corner. And that was tonight's WWE NXT. Not a bad show this week. It's just that nothing really against NXT, but I wouldn't say that it's one of the out of the wrestling shows that are on TV today. It's not one of the ones that I get excited for the most. But hey, it's wrestling. Still have to follow it. And also right after NXT, we had a new episode of Dark Side of the Ring. And this week's episode was Brutus the Barber Beefcake, which, again, I thought this was another pretty good episode. Just like so far this season, actually, as this was the third episode, because you had John Tenta, you had Buff Bagwell. I think this was the third one, and still early, of course, but so far off to a good start of this season. And for this episode of Dark Side of the Ring, obviously Bruce Beefcake interviewed his wife, Greg the Hammer Valentine, no surprise there, Brian Knobbs, Brian Blair, and they even interviewed the plastic surgeon that worked on his face when he had that parasailing accident back in the day. I'm sure long-time wrestling fans, just as myself, remember the time around WrestleMania 9 or so when he wore that mask at one time, when he eventually returned to the ring. He wore that for quite a while. Not sure how long exactly he wore that mask for, but I definitely remember him wearing that mask. And it went from that, and then when he went to WCW, all the characters they gave him to play there. First, he was the Booty Man. Then he was the Butcher when they had him turn on Hulk Hogan. Then he was the Zodiac in the Dungeon of Doom. And after that, after a while, he was the Disciple when he joined back up with Hogan in the NWO. And then, of course, they showed his Hall of Fame induction, 2019, being inducted by Hulk Hogan. And they talked about recently his falling out with Hogan as well, which has to do with Hogan not really liking his new current wife. With Hogan, you never know. But once again, pretty good episode of Dark Side of the Ring tonight. If you missed it, didn't see it tonight, I definitely recommend it that you go and check it out. I'd say that's worth a watch. And I know it's still early into the season, but overall, I'd say that probably the best episode would have been the John Tenta one so far, actually. I thought that one was really good. Definitely an in-depth look at John Tenta, which he was definitely good worker, good on the mic. Unfortunately, gone too soon. So, sorry. Also, if you missed that one, you can probably go back and check that one out. If you have a chance, I definitely recommend checking that episode out as well. Also, the Buff Bagwell episode is pretty good too. And of course, tonight, Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Before I wrap up tonight's episode of the podcast, though, I'm gonna talk a little bit of news going on. It's been added for tomorrow night AEW Dynamite, a 4-way match to earn a shot at the AEW TBS Championship. We will see Willow Nightingale, Anna Jay, Sky Blue, and Chris Statlander go at it to determine who will be the number one contender for the TBS Championship. And also, after she made her AEW debut just a couple weeks ago at Big Business, Mercedes Moné will be on commentary for that match. And speaking of Mercedes Moné, the CEO, there was some talk online today. I saw that maybe her first opponent in All Elite Wrestling could possibly be Red Velvet. Not sure. I'm sure eventually they probably will get to Mercedes versus Willow Nightingale. I'm sure they will have that match eventually, or at least you would think so anyway. And also, AEW has named, I hope I say this name right, hope I don't mess up too badly, Kosha Irby as the Chief Operating Officer of the company. That was announced earlier today. And that is about it for the news tonight. Thank you everyone for tuning in, listening, downloading, not only to the audio podcast version, but also doing a video for the YouTube channel as well. Not a live stream, but a regular video with the new handy dandy 360 wrestling podcast microphone here now. Like I said, well, the main problem was last night. Today when I went to test the new mic out again on Spreaker, if you're a regular listener of 360 Wrestling Podcasts, you know I record the podcast on my iPhone app, and I usually walk around. So it's been quite a while since I have actually done the podcast on a computer. And now, today when I was testing it out, I noticed that for all the microphone stuff, and that's another thing. Since the last time I have used Spreaker on an actual computer, it has changed quite a bit. And then I saw that for the microphone stuff, that it said that I was disabled. So luckily I got it figured out now. And that's why the podcast on Spreaker did not record yesterday. And so that one doesn't really exist. It's not on Spreaker now. It's not on YouTube now. So what I'm going to do is do just like they did on The Simpsons in the episode The Principal and the Pauper, I think it was, when they found out that Principal Skinner isn't the real Principal Skinner. He's Herman Tanzarian. And that is just not talk about it and pretend that it never happened. This is 360 Wrestling Fanatic episode 550. No, I don't even remember what episode this is. Episode 572. Sorry, I'm old. I forget sometimes. Episode 572. So, thank you everyone once again for listening. You can go in the comment section and leave your thoughts and your opinions and your ratings on tonight's NXT and Dark Side of the Ring. Also, still, you can go on there, make your WrestleMania predictions now for WrestleMania 40, either right here on Spreaker, YouTube, or wherever you listen or watch the podcast. And this episode is a video version of it. And now that I got the mic, I might do that more. Not sure how often exactly. Who knows? But stay tuned. And remember, on Instagram and Threads, 360 Wrestling Podcast and X at 360 Wrestling Pod. And you can support 360 Wrestling Podcasts on Spreaker, only $5 a month if you can. You don't have to. But like I said, if you can, it would really help make the podcast bigger and better than ever before. So maybe you can think about that. And I will talk to everyone tomorrow morning to preview tomorrow's episode of AEW Dynamite on Good Morning Wrestling fans. Hope everyone has a great night. We'll talk to you on GMWF tomorrow morning. Until then, I am Lance and I am a wrestling fanatic.